Alright, so here we have our problem. Using the information in the table below, find the difference between the temperatures in Albany and New York City. So, as for every word problem, we're going to write down what we know here. The question is asking for the difference between these temperatures of Albany and New York City. So we know that Albany is -2 degrees Celsius. And we know that we're finding the difference here, so we're going to associate that with subtraction. Next, we're going to look for that temperature of New York City, which is -5 degrees Celsius. And there we have it. We have our word problem written down number-wise here. So we're actually going to approach this problem using a linear model. So let's go ahead and draw out our line. 0, -1, -2, 3, -4, -5. We have +1, +2, +3, +4. So there you have it. Next, we're going to want to go ahead and draw out our temperatures here, or at least our first one. So we know that Albany is -2 degrees Celsius, so we're going to go ahead and label that as this line here with length -2, or magnitude -2. And one way to look at subtraction problems or difference problems is the term subtraction, difference, take away, they're all synonymous, so they kind of just mean the same thing. So rereading this using the take away mindset, we have -2 take away -5. So essentially we have 2 negatives and we want to take away 5 negatives. However, you look here, we don't have. So we're going to go ahead and actually introduce into this problem now is going to be the concept of zero pairs, which zero pairs are essentially any two numbers combined together that equal 0 that don't change the number. So for example, you have 1 plus 2 minus 2. It's still 1. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to manipulate our problem here to fit our needs. And our needs right now say that we need to take away 5 negatives. So if I already have 2 negatives, all I have to do is simply add an additional 3 negatives. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Add our 3 negatives. But if we have 3 negatives, we'll also have to add 3 positives because we don't want to change the number. So let's go ahead and add our 3 positives. So right off the bat there we have +3 -3. So this is +3 -3 right there. So really we're not changing the numbers associated with the problem right now. Simply we're just manipulating it to fit our needs. Again, just to reiterate, our needs being to be able to take away -5 or to take away 5 negatives. So now that we do have these 5 negatives here, we can go ahead and take these away. So let's go ahead and cross those out because those are all being taken away. And now what we're left with here, since we've taken away the -5, is going to be our final answer, which is going to be this green line represented here. And that green line is going to have a magnitude of +3, so that's going to be our final answer right there. Difference between these two temperatures found in Albany and New York City is going to be 3 degrees Celsius. Alright, so here we have our question. We have, using the information in the table below, find the difference between the temperatures in Albany and New York City. So, looking at our table, we see that Albany has a temperature of -2 degrees Celsius and New York City has a temperature of -5 degrees Celsius. And since we're looking for the difference of these two temperatures, we know that we're dealing with subtraction. So let's go ahead and write down just that. So we have Albany, which is -2 degrees Celsius, and we're looking for the difference. So we know that we're subtracting the temperature from New York City, which is going to be -5 degrees Celsius. And so we can actually solve this using a set model. What we're going to actually use is going to be some color counters. So we're going to go ahead and represent our temperature of -2 degrees Celsius with these two color counters right here, red representing the negative. And our objective is to subtract -5. -5 degrees Celsius to be precise. But if you notice here, we only have 2 negatives, so what the question is requiring us to do is to take away 5 negatives. So one way we can actually solve this is by adding in a zero pair. And with the zero pair, all that really is a pair of numbers that together combine to be 0. So numbers such as 2 and negative 2, 4 and negative 4, numbers that will essentially not change a given value when added. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and manipulate our problem to allow us to take away 5 negatives. So we already have 2, so we do know that we would essentially need just 3 more negatives to have our 5 negatives that we'd be able to take away. So let's go ahead and do that. Going to add our 3 negatives here. So 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and represent them like that. However, because we are using a zero pair, we're going to have to add 3 positives as well. That way we're not changing the number here. So right off the bat we have 3, minus 3, or positive 3 and negative 3. That right there is going to represent our zero pair. You have it, a little hard to read, but that's the zero pair right there. So we haven't changed anything. If we look at it here again, we still have the value of negative 2, just because these 2 columns right here are going to cancel each other out. So still have negative 2 here. Let's go ahead and write that down. So we have negative 2, and what we're looking for is to take away 5 negatives, or to take away negative 5. So now we're going to represent our negative 5 with our color counters. And now we have exactly what's depicted above right here, except with color counters. So right off the bat, we notice that we're now able to take away these 5 negatives from our negative 2. And if we take those away, we take these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're simply just going to be left with the 3 positives, or otherwise 3 degrees Celsius.